Tune into Raising Wisdom, where we embark on a journey of enlightenment and introspection. Get ready to elevate your understanding, embrace life's challenges, and unlock the true potential of your being. In a world where gossip rules, we are grateful that you came back to shine the gems on your crown, here on Raising Wisdom, where wisdom is free. I'm your girl, Nico Sakari, the Mad Alchemist. Catch us live Wednesdays at 8, and just for some extra love, hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Welcome back to Raising Wisdom, where wisdom is free. It is here where we embark on a journey of enlightenment and introspection. Together, we will navigate the complexities of life, seeking the elusive wisdom that enriches our minds and souls. So get ready to elevate your understanding, embrace life's challenges, and unlock the true potentials of your being. High vibrations. I'm your girl, Nico, your Zen Journey coach, and also known as the Mad Alchemist. So many amazing things going on. We have a special guest. We will be talking about exploring regenerative relationships and intimacy with Melissa. I do not want to butcher your last name.
It's Belongea.
Belongea. See, I'm glad that Melissa Belongea. Let me tell you about her just for a second before she's able to tell you about herself. First and foremost, this beautiful woman is our special guest. She's a marketer, strategist, copywriter, a relationship and leadership coach. We know we need that. And the creator of the Regenerative Relationship Method. I am so excited to welcome you, Melissa. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Nico. I'm excited to share more about regenerative relationships.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Much gratitude. So, can you tell us a little bit, first about your story and yourself and how you got to this method of regenerative relationships? What does that even mean?
Yeah, I know it's a mouthful sometimes, and I keep that word in there because I think more and more people are starting to explore the word regenerative in a lot of different contexts. And so regenerative to me in the relationship context means that there's always continuous growth within a relationship. That's the easiest way to think about it, is a relationship where two people are, constantly growing together, making room for changes. And, throughout a relationship, especially a long-term relationship, we go through many phases, we shed many layers, we have many deaths in terms of, ego and the ways that our ego changes shape over time. And so to be in a relationship that really allows for that space is that's what I think of as a regenerative relationship, where there's room to have many deaths and rebirths within the same relationship. So that's probably the easiest way to explain it. But it comes from, I've worked in the sustainability field in the past, and the sustainability conversation is moving toward regeneration. And so when I think of creating a regenerative future, sustainability to me is about sustaining the status quo. So it might, we might create incrementally better solutions with sustainability, but regeneration is a totally different paradigm. It's a paradigm shift where we're not just, sustaining the status quo. We're actually, growing. Again, back to that metaphor of the relationship. We're actually, growing and growing in an upward spiral is how I think of regeneration, where the ecosystem of a relationship is constantly, active and composting and creating new opportunities for growth. So that's where the word comes from. And then in terms of how I got into this work is just my lifelong journey with relationships, and always from a young age really feeling like my template, my understanding of relationships was that people are you know, they're meant to be places where people are honest with each other and clear with each other. And so this was the vision I had in my head when I was young. And then when I, started to get into relationships and have my own experiences, I started to realize, wow, so many relationships are, based on dishonesty and pretense and, not being on, not showing up truly how we are, how we want to be. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. And one of them is that we're just not taught how to be more open and honest in relationships. But I just remember having that vision at a really young age, and then that has been my North Star ever since. But I, of course, as I've followed that North Star, have had to go through my own growth process to be able to, it's one thing to want a radically honest and transparent relationship, and it's another thing to be able to be ready for that in our body, mind, and spirit. And so I've had to do a lot of work, working through my own armor, my own walls to be able to be emotionally ready for a relationship that is, that open and that available is really what it is. And I would say, most of us aren't born with that skill set. That's not something that's taught in our society and in our culture. And the dominant relationship model in our culture is closer to, codependency, where I think people look to look to the other person to fill needs that they really need to be filling on their own, so that there can be, greater connection, that kind of thing. So I
Ooh.
hope that's not too much information.
No, that was just enough. Too much is not enough. First and foremost, that's amazing, and especially that you had this idea from a young age. I think like when we're younger, especially as us ladies, we have this world that we make up in our minds of what a relationship looks like, due to our environments, what we see, what we don't want to see, and we kind of analyze what it is that we want in our lives. So, in your perspective of this method in regenerative relationships, it makes so much sense because we are definitely in a time of a lot of selfishness. And in order to release, to be able to have those types of relationships that are ideal and that last, that
Mhm.
makes so much sense. I am so excited about your work. Exploring regenerative relationships and intimacy is
Mhm.
crucial because it allows us to redefine the way that we connect with others on a deeper scale and on a more authentic level, as you
Yeah.
said, because that's most important, your authentic self. And do you love me in that? And can we grow in that as we evolve and change? It's never stagnant. So, of course, it has to regenerate to be something new, something beautiful in
Yeah.
whatever state in that is. So, discussing intimacy in this context is just really important because it encourages vulnerability, which
Yes.
we don't really like to do at times because of the shift. And so many shifts has happened, especially us as women, not ostracizing the gentleman. However, with the signs of the times and having to get with moving to be of essence and of importance, especially in our what do you want to call it? Our many hats that we wear,
Hmm.
moving into the masculine and crawling back quickly to the divine feminine. It's just really important to have that vulnerability and emotional transparency and just a deeper connection with ourselves and others, especially with our partners. So I am so very grateful to get into this topic because you're so knowledgeable and we are here to learn on Raising Wisdom, where wisdom is free. Okay, before we get into furthermore, because I have so many questions to ask you, it's time for our moon phases. We cannot get moon phases. First, I know it's been a minute. It's been a minute, but I have explanations for that. Guys, I have explanations for it, which we will dive into later on in the show. However, this is the last quarter moon. And what does that mean for us? So it symbolizes reflection, release, and recalibration. So this phase invites you to elevate and alleviate what no longer serves your highest good, and to let go of the bad habits, the bad things that you've acquired along the way, because we did just come out of the Mercury retrograde. All praises to the Most High, because y'all, I was drowning. Okay, I'm gonna just be honest, but we're gonna get into that later on. Not in this episode. However, it's just a time for growth and introspection, forgiveness. Oh, forgiveness. I have a different feeling about that word. If you've been following me, you know my journey with forgiveness has been bland, if you will. But right now, it is a little bit different. Preparation for the new beginnings and all that will be coming in the new moon, which I'm really excited for. So many things are happening. However, not too long on all of this stuff. So we're talking about self-awareness, forgiveness and release, decluttering everything, and of course, the herbs to support you with your intentions and your manifestations in the last quarter moon is your sage, baby. That's our best friend. Please add Palo Santo to make sure that you create that balance of alleviating and getting rid of the negative energy and making sure to bring in positive energy. So the balance with the sage and the Palo Santo, we spoke about that before. It's just for the good of purification, the cleansing, and support of what you want to bring in moving forward into the new moon. Lavender is our beautiful, smooth, calming friend that's definitely going to promote some relaxation in our lives and in some emotional balance. Okay. Aiding in just reflection. A lot of reflection needs to be had after the shenanigans that the Mercury retrograde left us with, if you will. I hope you came out of that in high spirits. And lemon balm, that's just for the soothing of the mind. Rosemary, all praises. We want to make sure that we have that divine protection, and chamomile to just ease everything out. Okay, make the process of the forgiveness and the emotions that you're going to go through your process with, make sure that's like smooth and sailing. So make sure that you guys are using that in a tea, a spiritual bath, however you get down, but make sure that you're taking care of yourselves in this spiritual and beautiful time. So thank you for my host, Mio, and letting the beautiful diamonds know what's going on when it comes to our next steps and what can help and enhance us for what's to come. My question for you, ma'am, because this topic right here is deep, especially for me right now, and I'm sure like many in the audience can relate where it comes to relationships and just really wanting something that sticks.
Hi, Vibrations, everyone. I'm Nico Sakari, a spiritual holistic wellness coach. I'm thrilled to announce the official launch of my new business, Sin Journey Consulting Coaching, where my heart is fully committed to creating a safe and empowering space for women who are ready to manage and overcome depression with ease. After overcoming my own struggles with depression and finding a path to healing, I've made it my mission to help other women navigate their own journeys toward peace, self-confidence, and lasting well-being. In my Sacred Path to Wellness program, I guide women to manage depression and anxiety with their mind, body, and spirit, reconnect with their inner power and purpose. I'm beyond excited to serve and support women who are ready to receive real answers and practical tools to move forward and transform their lives. My motto is heal the women, heal the world. If you or someone you know could benefit from this, I'd love to connect. Love with light.
Okay, so
All good.
can you share with us, in your experience, what drives our innate need for intimacy and how do we often misinterpret it?
Well, I think intimacy is a core human need. So we're wired for connection as human beings. And it's really just the little hurts and big hurts that happen, otherwise known as traumas, that add these layers of protection. So when we're born, we're really quite pure and open. And it's kind of like an onion, like the first part of our life we go through and we're starting to add these onion layers, and that is kind of the same thing as like ego layers. And then we get to a certain point in life where we keep running into the same patterns, the same issues. And if we're aware and we want to, if we want to get out of those patterns, we have to start peeling the onion layers back. I forget the first or the second part of your question.
The second part of my question is, how do we misinterpret it? Like, how do we often misinterpret that in which you talk about with layers and what you just said, because we often refer to that as shadow work and having to look at yourself so that you can be visible and not so protected in a sense where you can't be vulnerable. So yes, my question was, how often do we misinterpret it?
Well, I guess one thing I can think of in terms of maybe a misinterpretation of intimacy is that it's just physical. And intimacy starts at the emotional layer, so that's why a lot of what I focus on in my practice as an intimacy coach is actually the emotional intimacy piece, because without that, physical intimacy can only go so far. It's only so fulfilling. And really that's where a lot of, people end up, stop being physical in their relationships, is when the emotional, blocks are just too present and too overwhelming in some cases. And so being able to peel those back and work on more of the, de-armoring is another word for it, is how we, get back to the true nature of who we are so that we can actually connect. And that's what feels really good in intimacy. That's what intimacy is when, again, we're able to see one another clearly. And there's two sides to that. It's not just somebody, taking the effort to dig a little deeper and learn more about us. It's also our ability to, reveal ourselves and reveal our truth in front of another person in a way that feels safe. And, vulnerability is there's always a risk involved there, but, we can do it in a way where we can support ourselves in being vulnerable so that, we can show up as clearly as ourselves as possible. And that's really the goal, because, again, if we're talking about and I think about it as like old paradigm relationships, new paradigm relationships is another way to talk about, like codependency versus interdependence. And in codependency, there's just a lot of control and manipulation going on because, again, we're trying to get people to meet certain needs that we should be meeting for ourselves. So when we can meet those needs for ourselves, so that really starts with self-intimacy. So that's the number one place to start. And then when we're able to be honest with ourselves and clear about our feelings, that is, at that point, that's when we can share it with another person. But if we skip that step, if we're not able to do that for ourselves, there's not a good, there's no chance for us to do that with other people because we don't have a map for how to do that, so you really have to start with ourselves in order to be able to be intimate. And I would say the other thing about intimacy, just as a definition, if it helps anyone, is another definition I've heard of intimacy is, and this is from Estelle, I forget her last name, but she's a authority in this field, in the field of relationships and intimacy. Estelle Perel, that's what it is.
Estelle Perel, okay.
Yeah, she's great. But she has defined intimacy as interdependence. So this ability to, both take care of our own needs and connect with another person, because, that's also what relationships are for. They're for support, and we should be able to receive support as well. It's just a matter of, if we're always depending on another person to fulfill those needs, that's when it gets codependent. Or if we're never depending on people to fulfill needs, if we're just super independent, that's
it can go either or.
Yeah, that's like more in the avoidance category. Whereas intimacy, true intimacy, is the ability to, lean in when you need help and take care of yourself, so that there can be that nice balance. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I love it because bringing this into the fold creates healthy relationships. I think that what's happening, of course, we have conversations about the frequency, the shifts, the things that are happening when it comes to love and all of those things, even when it comes mostly to self and how you can output that like to the rest of the world. It's so important to be able to have that reciprocity.
Yes.
And with intimacy, you have reciprocity because, as you said, which is so beautiful, and something that is most important is that you see me. I see you. We're more than this carnal being, this avatar, if you will, that I like to say. We are these gorgeous, soulful spirits that are here to love and emit love and create. So how beautiful would it be to have someone see you? And in the method that you're speaking of, it's nothing but health and wellness that can come from that, because you're constantly growing. You're seeing yourself, you're seeing them. So if I see you and I love you, I'm here with you and I care about you.
Yeah.
It's as if I see myself, and I won't do anything to hurt myself. So I'm not going to do nothing to hurt you either. And that's what intimacy definitely comes in for sure, because the sexual aspect will for sure fade away. The intimacy is what makes it spicy.
Exactly. And it's what creates a regenerative sexual relationship too. The ability to continuously see your partner in a new way. And for us in the relationship to be constantly exploring new layers of our being, that's what keeps it spicy ultimately, So I like to say that there's a lot of novelty that can be found in monogamous relationships when we're curious enough to keep peeling back layers of one another, and when we're curious to peel back those layers for ourselves first, because again, all of this has to start at the self first. So
because if you're not good for, listen, if you don't love yourself, baby, you can't love nobody else. If you're not good for yourself, then you can't be good for nobody else. Can you share ways that regenerative relationships help individuals heal from codependency, fear, and avoidance?
Yeah, definitely. So again, I think it helps to have a North Star of, because we might know that we don't want X kind of relationship anymore, or these kind of qualities or whatever, but it's like, then where do we go? And if we don't have a sort of an idea of what that looks like, it can be hard to navigate. So I really think, regenerative relationships, secure relationships, those are interchangeable, I would say. And true intimacy, again, represents both of those things where there is a reciprocal give and take, and there is a sense of, I think equality and equity are different. There's a sense of equity in a regenerative relationship
Yeah.
where we might be different. We might be playing different roles, doing different things, contributing different things to the relationship. But overall, both people are getting equal fulfillment out of the relationship. So equity kind of describes that situation. Whereas, if we're just focused on equality, then we're like, what did you do for me so that I can justify doing this for you? So it
Tit for
becomes this
tat type
like,
of deal. Yeah.
yeah, it's more
Or,
transactional.
yeah.
Whereas but at the same time, we want to make sure that it feels balanced so that both people feel like they are having a growth experience and getting equal, they're getting equal benefit from the relationship. That should be the goal with a regenerative relationship, is that we're both pouring into it because we're both, you know, getting stuff out of the relationship that's nurturing. And it's kind of like a bank, like when both people are depositing into this, central bank of their relationship, the more they pour into the relationship, not necessarily into the other person, into this third space of
Yes.
the relationship, the more that it can support both people in living their best lives. And so then if the task of relationship becomes keeping that third space healthy and clean, and that's why you want to talk through stuff right when it comes up so that it doesn't have a chance to build and create resentment later on, that kind of thing. So
Yes.
I do think that helps to think of relationships as this third space between two independent people, because that's the shared thing that you're building.
I listen, it's so many more things that I want to get into it with you, because your knowledge about this topic is very necessary, very needed, very appreciated. I'm going to ask you a couple of things before we get out of here.
Sure.
The first thing is, for those that are looking to align with their personal growth, with relational fulfillment, what are the first steps that they can take?
So again, the first step is always coming home to yourself, and practical ways to do that are, again, it helps to know your attachment style, and that can always shift. I have a anxious attachment style, so my common relationship traps are like fear around abandonment, fear around rejection, things like that. And so I've had to work really hard to stop myself in moments where if I'm feeling triggered from the other person, from whatever they're doing, whether it's, justified or not, I have to stop. And when I'm feeling that way, when I'm feeling that sense of abandonment or fear or panic, I have to stop and slow down and see where I'm feeling that in my body and sit with myself in that feeling, so that I can understand myself first before I bring that to a partner.
Absolutely.
So that really helps quite a bit, because when we are reactive and we just react out of our wounds, that is what, that's what deteriorates relationships over time, versus if we're, responding from a place of understanding ourselves and saying, instead of why did you do this, blah blah blah, it's, hey, when you said that, this is what came up for me, and I'm wondering if next time you could say it differently, or this is just what it brings up for me, and I'm trying to address it in my own space. But if you could help me, what would help support me is if you said it differently, then I can hear you a lot easier. That's just a very general example, but there's a lot of ways to that kind of leads me to the second tip of just being able to speak vulnerably from your own experience. That does wonders for cleaning up communication in a relationship.
Yeah.
Anytime we kind of step over into that, to the other realm where we're pointing a finger or saying, you did this, you did that, that's always an interpretation.
Speaking more from like an I connotation, you know, I feel like this, opposed to the you and the blame situation. That's where it becomes that tit for tat.
Yeah.
Listen,
and if you can sit with that your space first. I was going to just say, if you can sit with that in your space first, it forces you to work through, what am I actually feeling, you know? And that is something your partner can hear much more readily than an accusation or criticism. Criticism never helps, you know, it always throws up defenses. So if we're feeling critical, it's like we know we need to take it in our own space and understand what is the hurt underneath that criticism, you know?
Absolutely. We gotta get you back, because first and foremost, I want to learn more about the attachment styles. The things that you're speaking on is everything that we definitely need to be hearing right now, because relationships at this point in time are a privilege, if you will, in that, right? I want to thank you so much for sharing your method and all of the growth that you exude through your message. It's just beautiful and it's wonderful. You know, I love you. We've talked several times. I want to make sure that hopefully we'll be able to create space again. In the meantime, in between time, can you please tell my audience how they can reach you? How can they find you?
Yeah, definitely. And I can share I have an actual regenerative relationship method. It's a worksheet to help. It's really to help go deep with yourself to kind of uncover some of these answers, because that's the other thing that could get confusing if it's like, do work on yourself. And it's like, well, how do you do that? That's what the method is for, is to take you deeper into new layers of yourself and have that self-discovery. So I'll share that with you and your audience. But my Instagram handle is regenerative_relationships. And and my website is just my first and last name. So melissabelongea.com.
Thank you so much. I'm so very excited about this. Y'all need to go check Melissa out, and what she has to offer is something that is very refreshing, very new, something that is very wanted, needed, and we can all benefit from regenerative relationship method, okay? I do have 3 affirmations before we get out of here. Number 1, I create space for relationships that nurture and uplift. Number 2, I embrace vulnerability as a path to connection. And number 3, I honor my needs with deepening my connections. Those are our affirmations. I know you've been waiting to hear about the update of what's been going on since the man has came to America. However, that will be in another episode. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, share, so that other beautiful diamonds will be able to have the experience of this information and knowing about regenerative relationships and how it can serve you, how you can serve yourself. And that's about all. I want to thank you again for being on Raising Wisdom, where wisdom is free.
In a world where gossip rules, I am so grateful that you came back to shine the gems on your crown here on Raising Wisdom, where wisdom is free. So have a joyful and prolific rest of your week. Love with light. Peace.